Welcome back to the 6 o'clock news. Agriculture Minister half of this year. He has optimism that the draft forest bill will be passed by Parliament in the first half of this year. He believes that the legislation will help to stimulate rapid development of agriculture in the forestry sector. More in this report.
The draft forest bill is a modern piece of legislation which was put together following years of consultations with various stakeholders. According to Agriculture Minister Robert Prasad, the bill takes into consideration recent national and international advances which have occurred in the forestry sector.
When the law comes into effect, it will require the updating of several guiding documents for the sector, such as the National Forest Policy, the National Forest Plan, and GFC guidelines for sustainable forest management. The GFC will also be required to work with all stakeholders to finalize a strategic plan for the forestry sector.
This year, the Guyana Forestry Commission has pledged to ensure that sustainable forest management is practiced by all concessionaires. The Agriculture Minister says emphasis will also be placed on training to improve productivity and quality and ensure the availability of a ready skills base.
The Forest Training Center will support this thrust by providing training in reduced impact logging and extension services, both at the national and regional levels. The GFC will also have to contribute to the national effort on seeking compensation for avoided deforestation and REDD-related activities.
He notes that this will entail detailed studies on carbon stock assessment and development of monitoring tools by utilizing state-of-the-art technology. The recently established Forest Products Development and Marketing Council is also working with the GFC to develop strategic business plans, which it hopes will stimulate greater development within the sector. Reporting for the 6 o'clock news, I'm Shartla Lal.
Local shippers are bracing for possible negative effects on business as a result of the global financial crisis. Managing Director of John Finance Limited, Chris Finance, says the impact will be felt in the first quarter of this year, and already there is evidence that containerized exports are slowing up. I spoke with Mr. Chris Finance today. Managing Director of John Finance Limited, Chris Finance, says trade in the latter half of 2008 was cushioned by the traditional influx of goods for the Christmas season. But now that this season is over, he believes that the true impact of the global financial crisis on trading is beginning to emerge.
There's also evidence that the containerized exports are also slowing up slightly. It is only middle January, so it's difficult for us to give a firm projection. But maybe by the end of March, we'll be able to see exactly what the impact is.
While he foresees a decrease in cargo shipping, Mr. Finance says the extent will not be known until March.
We have managed to check to analyze this. It's something we can work on and try and get a little better picture. But it's just trade, just container movement generally that we capture at this point. We don't actually have the details on type of cargo that is necessarily slowing.
Meanwhile, the managing director says there was a decline in non-commercial cargo, specifically barrels, last year. He says this may be attributed to overseas-based persons choosing to send cash instead of cargo to relatives and friends.
The Guyana Association of Justices of Peace and Commissioners of Oath Affidavits is calling for a monitoring mechanism to be put in place to monitor the conduct of JPs. The call comes in the face of recent allegations of misconduct being made against some of its members. Details from Adeli Ramprasad.
In response to the allegations of some JPs charging citizens exorbitant fees, General Secretary of Guyana Association of Justices of Peace and Commissioners of Oath to Affidavits, Herman Bolai Singh, says it is wrong. But he adds that there is no stipulated price attached to sign a document, and this is, he says, is currently being reviewed. The association is therefore calling for a body to be set up in order to monitor the conduct of the Justices of Peace. Meanwhile, the association is also calling on all Justices of Peace to adhere to the stipulations in the commission given to them.
Any JP or COA indulge in any form of skullduggery, etc., deceit, corruption, falsification of information, or any dealing that contravenes the spirit of his or her instrument commission, he or she shall be debarred from the membership in the association.
The General Secretary explains the issue of members performing duties for which they are not licensed.
Not all JPs are marriage officers. There are some JPs who are marriage officers. Some commissioner votes are marriage officers. And even without being a JP or commissioner of oath, you can be considered a marriage officer.
Additionally, he added that if any member is involved in any illegal activities, the matter can be reported to the Office of the President through the Attorney General Office. Investigations followed by proof of guilt could lead to possible revocation. Reporting for the NCN 6 o'clock news, Adeli Rampersad.
On a recent visit to Berbice, Housing and Water Minister Irfan Ali told regional officials that the ministry will work to regularize squatter settlements there. The visit to Region 6 was intended to outline the ministry's 2009 work program and to garner feedback from the representatives on issues affecting the region. Minister Ali highlighted squatting as one of the major issues arising out of the region, with approximately 22 squatter settlements currently being regularized. The ministry will also develop the new housing policy to improve the application process for those applying for house lots. Meanwhile, CEO of the Central Housing and Planning Authority, Myrna Pitt, says the body will intensify efforts to ensure all house lots allocated to persons are occupied. The Woodlands Hospital Laboratory is the first private laboratory to be certified by the Guyana National Bureau of Standards. This year, the hospital has also responded to the Ministry of Health's call to build capacity in screening blood donors for additional diseases. Details from Monica Jones.
The Woodlands Hospital Laboratory, which was established in 2002, was today certified for achieving the general requirement for its operation by the Guyana National Bureau of Standards. Head of the GNBS, Dr. Chatpal Ramcharan, urged the hospital to maintain its standard while calling on other laboratories to put quality systems in place.
That we cannot become complacent. We have to try to maintain the system in the laboratory. This means that we have to continue to establish a system, continue to keep our records, continue to enforce all these procedures that we have established, ensure that we maintain them so that our objective can also be maintained.
The GNBS head indicated that the laboratory is the 6th to be certified, noting that some 30 are still to get on board. Woodlands Medical Superintendent Dr. Neville Gobin says his laboratory will maintain its standard to ensure the effective operation of the hospital.
Reliability, dependability, accuracy are what doctors need when they send patients to do a lab test, because many times the life of that patient depends on the results of those tests.
Meanwhile, the Health Ministry had called on all private hospitals to increase their blood screening capacity or the privilege will be withdrawn. Woodlands Hospital Quality Control Manager Walter Narain says the only test the hospital is not capable of conducting is Chagas, noting that the equipment to do so will arrive within weeks. He notes too that technicians will be trained to conduct these tests. Private hospitals have until March to ensure they can screen for diseases and infections such as hepatitis C and Chagas. Onika Jones, the 6 o'clock news.
According to predictions from the Hydromet Department, this evening's weather is expected to be mostly cloudy. The tide is now high at 3.09 meters and low tide will be at 0 hours 41 at a minimum height of 0.57 meters. Occasional showers and possible light intermittent rain are expected over coastal and inland areas tomorrow, while other parts can expect mostly fair weather conditions. Rainfall is anticipated to range between 0 to 20 millimeters, with winds northeasterly to easterly at 0 to 6 meters per second. Temperature is likely to reach a minimum value of 23.5 degrees Celsius to 25 degrees Celsius along the coast and 19.5 to 23 degrees Celsius elsewhere.